Hello, folks. Welcome to another live poetry streaming. Tonight we have Haley Cotton, Cathy, Socarras, Ferrell, Jeanne Lutz, and Sarah Hanson. As usual, I'll start off with a couple of my poems. The first one is Good Intention. I was thinking I would write something uplifting. I could not. I was thinking of putting my best foot forward, but I slipped on the ice. The one positive, I did not fall. I faltered. This is Poetry Month, as many of you know. It's also Parkinson's I can't talk, Awareness Month. So this next poem is kind of about having Parkinson's. An unbalanced step, but there's a wall to hold me up. The pull of going back to bed is diminished, and I'm actually making progress without the point where everything goes clunkety clunk, clunk, clunk. Snow may fall and I may shovel without wonderment of how to get the driveway cleared. Some days I walk out the front door and spy a robin in the yard, regarded as a good omen. Some days I'm fine, some days. Other days, well, some days I choose not to discuss. Our first poet tonight is H.M. Cotton, who is the managing editor of Birmingham Poetry Review, contributing editor for Nell, and production manager for both journals. Her writing appears in places such as the Raleigh Review, Story South, and Terran.org. She is an Alabama master naturalist, MFA student at Warren Wilson, and teaches at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. As a 2023 Alabama State Council on the Arts Poetry Fellow, she kayaked 180 miles of the Cahaba River and details the adventure at the Cahaba Project.substack.org. Take it away, Haley.
Thanks so much, Ron, and thanks for having me on tonight. Uh, Welcome, everyone. All right. Anatomy of a Tornado, April 27th, 2011. What comes first is the quiet, the soundlessness of everything settling into place, how the birds feel the shift in air pressure before you do. Next, purple skies gone green, a harbor of clouds piled up and hiding the destroyer. Then Deuteronomy and Job flutterfall alongside house siding and hospital bills with addresses 100 miles away. You hear no train, but track the path on radar, a red bullseye like a gunshot wound bleeding out on the valley one ridge over. And in its wake, the scream from the woods you're still trying to convince yourself was rabbit or fox, anything but a baby dropped from the sky. Everything goes animal, even your mind. Bees employ sacred geometry. Bees employ sacred geometry, build their honeycombs as hexagons, and wasn't I too taught the strongest structure was a cylinder compressed on all sides by its brethren? Took a fistful of straws in my 10-year-old hands and squeezed. My people find God in every pip and petal, in the stigmata of the dogwood, crucifix of the sand dollar, and in God's eye staring back at us from the edge of a black hole deep in space. They see what we all do, patterns repeating, repeating, repeating. The sycamore tree across the street from me is split in such a way it looks like lungs, an orange carpel, the cross-section of a kidney. If nature's fractals spiral through a genesis of copy, cut, pasting, then why isn't the mystery of the universe solved in an atom? I am no more than constellations of electrons or protons flowing from negative to positive around a neutral base, a planet with its moons, a queen bee swarmed by her drones. If patterns are out here on repeat, tell me, where can I find the shape of home? Thirst. I hold a pebble in my mouth because the survival guide says doing so reminds the mouth of water. In the same way, I hold the picture of you in my mind from last July, out along the river's edge when the sun came hazy through a line of sycamores. your angles cutting sharp against the soft green of fleabane and asters grown head high. As a child, I dog-eared every page on living through catastrophe. Drought and flood are both problems of possession. Each taint the tap water with its signature, bloom of algae or sedimentation. I know how to live through lack, but none of it prepared me for the hollow of your clavicle or the tendon of your hand in conversation. The asters are in bloom again, and salivation doesn't do shit for thirst, because none of these things are the thing of want, only a trick of desire. Icarus. When I was 10, my father taught me a lesson in trust in gravity. He idled down the single prop somewhere over Talladega County and let the Cessna glide. Of course, I freaked. Imagine the small shadow of us on the ground growing bigger until we'd fall into each other, collide in a tangled mass of limb and wing. But the plane hung in the air, engine no longer ringing in my ears, just his voice in my headset. See, you're okay. These days I fly on larger planes, my father no more at the yoke. I choose window seats always near the wing and exit row, and know our lives put faith in each bolt to not give way. Taxiing to the tarmac and right before the gut drop of flight, I name the rivets one by one. Declaration, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Dred Scott, Brown v. Board, Obergefell, Roe v. Wade. Uncommon. For Muriel. Across the last moon and a half, an orb weaver waxed gibbous beneath my office window. Her ligature yawns over a tangle of zinnias sprung from seed, collected methodically last summer, and of which I strew in a spare moment earlier this spring. Much grows in spare moments. Much more grows through patient waiting as she does for desire to draw her prey in. I once heard flowers hum at such a frequency that they almost sing to pollinators when they're ripe with nectar. And so she sits mid-bullseye and lets the flowers lure in her meals. She's just a common yellow garden spider, but she knows how to spin her web with no tutorial. No late-night YouTube ad skipping, fuming, or Reddit comment skimming looking for life's answers. Her urge guides her. They say common sense isn't all that common. I say if it were, we'd all be down by the river, waiting by its edge for the pull of something bigger. Take and eat. 3 people held the key to my childhood church: the pastor, a deacon, and my mama. She could feed a Wednesday crowd on a shoestring like Jesus made little multiply. Take this, your Walmart sub, your $5 18-inch ham and cheese quartered for the body. It weren't meant to be fancy, but doctored up with dukes and submarine sauce would stave the hunger of working men long enough to partake of the fruit of the Spirit. Each Bible verse a blackberry druplet, dark sweetness swollen around a single hard seed. While Mama laid the kitchen spread, my task to unline chair rows in the chapel and roll in tables. Yes, sanctuary was a place for breaking bread. Even now, for me, faith shows up when we've all had enough to eat. Yellow garden spider. When the neighborhood boy, drunk on your front lawn, mansplains Whitman, and you don't know what he's on about, but it's not leaves of grass, and you tell him, no matter, you'll still punch him if he picks up your spider again, and he says she likes it, and you tell him that's exactly what a man would say, plucking a woman from the web of her world and toying with her just because he can, and he wants to, and is utterly convinced she likes it. And his face falls, because even though he doesn't know his Whitman from his Bierce, he still recognizes a metaphor. And he says humans are the worst and we shouldn't even be here. And again, you want to punch him for hopscotching over the point, though you have not and will not hit a being in anger. Instead, you turn to wheels and cycles and the eventual frost. How the hollowed throats of zinnias will stiffen, and he replies that he doesn't want her to die. And I know, I don't either, but she will. And she should be allowed in her own time and in her own way. And in the spring, if the wheel keeps spinning, and you and the neighbor boy have kept the grounds crew from whacking down the forest of zinnia trunks. And if the wasps and the ants and the heavy wet winter the persimmon seeds foretell don't get to them first, her egg sacs will hatch and there will be spiders. All right. Last one for you. So in Alabama, we tend to either run through all of the syllables of our words, or we pronounce every single word and every single syllable and draw things out for as long as possible. So the name of this church, I have heard said two ways. One, I've heard it said Coatopa. The other, I've heard it said Catopa. So, knowing that, I'm gonna go with Catopa Presbyterian Church, founded 1847, Sumter County, Alabama. Buzzards held benediction for the sunrise service on the steps of Old Catopa as I pulled once more into the shaggy lot. Long since gone heathen, I waited for their amen and for their dark forms to disentangle from the gaping hollow of the doorway and take off like raptured saints, winging into a cirrostratus sky. In my bitter days, I would have smirked and said something about death holding court in holy shadows. But now I know how this place holds life better left to molder than it ever did during its heyday. Inside, I nod to the pastor who has waddled a fresh layer on his nest. The striations of seasons age beneath him like the fossil record or Genesis 5 with all its begats. The sanctuary is quiet this time. No echoes of frantic bat wings pinwheeling off the beadboard at midnight. The colony is tucked away in the belfry, hanging now where the bell might have rang before I was ever born. Their shit litters the floor alongside rat carcasses and owl pellets, not martyrs or the dry bones of Ezekiel rising up for the dust, but meals, a different sort of wheel turning through its cycle. But what I'm here for isn't the mud dauber's pipe organ scrawl on the wall, but to study again how they formed their rows around a socket on the ceiling. This, the true sermon, how to wrap yourself around the light. Thank you.
Simply wonderful poems, Haley. Thanks a lot. Our next poet, Cathy Socarras Ferrell, is a poet, writer, and educator from Central Florida, the granddaughter of Cuban immigrants. She finds inspiration in storytelling and the sandhill cranes in her yard. Her work can be found at the Orchards Poetry Journal, Santa Clara Review, Compulsive Reader, and other literary journals. She is alumni of the Tupelo Press 3030 Project and is an associate editor for Table // Literary Magazine. Cathy has served the community as a public school educator since 2006 and is currently a high school literacy coach. Readers can connect with Cathy at ferrellwords.com. Take it away, Cathy.
Thank you, Ron. So excited to be here. This is Oldest Daughter. Quiet moment, me and the morning and a tangerine. Pliant, fragrant, generous breath, untouched citrus groves, unbothered bees. I pry soft segments apart, hold the peels to my nose, release a torrent with my tongue. I am back in the captain's seat. I roll down the window of the old minivan, stick my head out. We roll down Highway 27, past the old Publix, past the Citrus Tower and its distant gaze over hills and tannin-stained lakes. I inhale the hum of orange blossom, close my eyes, the better to feel the caress. We peel fruit for breakfast, for lunch, 4 plates at the table, 3 other mouths. My sister and I serve the youngest first. The pots, the lunch boxes wait to be filled and emptied and filled again. At my kitchen table, I turn away from the sink, sit, eat a tangerine. Addendum to the friend request I sent you last week. What is your favorite animal? Do you love foxes? I always wanted to be Disney Robin Hood. What do you collect? I pick up pebbles and nervous habits, lol. Have you ever puked in public? Stomach aches are the worst. Did you sit very still in church? I always watched the congregation. Did you win all the Bible drills too? I remember the newsboys, youth group, lock-ins. Did you hate sports? My parents made me play softball. I needed the exercise. Got hit in the head, lol. Only played one season. My parents sat together then, lol. Never knew who won. Danced around the kitchen in my grandmother's vintage dresses. The cute boy and his girlfriend LOL'd at me through the window. When was your first kiss? What is wrong with her? Did they whisper about you too? Afraid of social gatherings? Not invited anyway? LOL. The homeschooled girl, LOL. Why is she so quiet? The oldest in any group, the armchair adventurer, the kind of Hispanic, not really bilingual girl, the gringa to my father's familia. Niña! Do you ever dream in another language? You don't look Spanish. I'm not mad, this is my thinking face, LOL. Am I oversharing? LOL. I'm a nice girl, LOL. I chased my brother around the kitchen with a knife. I'm sorry, LOL. Is your house clean? Is your car a mess? I still want to be the hero, LOL. Love poem to myself, after Adrienne Rich's 21 love poems, number 9. Your mind today is a hive where tiny things thrash. I want to still their wings, whisper over their stumbling bodies. They are angry, the sun too bright. If I could, I would shade your purple lids, quiet the endless thrum. I'd reach cool fingers down, wrap the sting in golden thread, knit liquid into amber. Nothing can unravel us here, even ourselves. 27 bones. Stale coffee sipped from a paper cup. Your hands look old, my daughter says. Abuela left Cuba in the dry air of a plane to marry her love in New Orleans. These hands will never wash or dust or cook, he told her. Years later, bleach and palmolive left delicate lines and folds papered across the whorls of her knuckles, the backs of her sun-mottled hands, nails always tapered, polished. In Cuba, we had evenings to dance in our frills. The band played so late, we walked. Beautiful ladies waved from their balcones to their novios below. We had a finca. I remember the chickens. It was so hot, I thought I'd help. I plucked one live to cool her off. Que pecado. She died. I remember our cook's buñuelos, tan rico, sweet anise syrup, and always a cafecito. Mama sent me to art school. Did you know that a frog has 50 bones? I had to draw them all from memoria. And sabías que a hand has 27? What happened to la finca, the chickens? Abuela's mama, her taza de café. Greedy fingers and bone china crushed dust beneath foul and scratch. I don't know what else Abuela drew. Outside, my window, rivers reach metacarpal tendons and memory, an empty paper cup. When I call my sister just to say hi, she knows, after Paige Lewis. What I really mean is I have somehow floated away from my own body again. She takes a piece of pink yarn from the old craft box, reaches through the phone, ties a loop around my ankle. She knows how to tie a strong knot. She pulls, tugs, until we are close to soft green hills. We lie back and stare into the wide blue above, where I once drifted, sad about everything and nothing. Chiroptera at dusk. We lie belly up on the trampoline, rest on its taut dark mesh, watch for darting swoops. Baby bats are pups or bittens, hover under their mother's arms, suckle and shelter. They have navels. Bats form colonies, camps, clouds, spread hand wings wide, catch air in a net of membranes. I have fed mouths from my body, been bitten by tiny fangs seeking fullness. Phantom needles still prick at the expression of hunger. In the cooling night, I fold both bittens into my span. We look at the world hanging upside down, an anomaly more agile than anything with feathers. Night-blooming cactus blooms once a year like Cinderella. She wilts by morning. By morning, Cinderella wilts without her glass slipper. She left a slipper of glass, left without a foot inside. A foot inside the door, waiting to be let in. Wait, let me in. I carry all the bags. All the bags I carry are filled with food and wine. Filled with food and wine, we talk and laugh all evening. All evening, as we laugh and talk, Abuelo sits to the side alone. Abuelo sits on the side of his walker. He calls me to walk over, calling, Oye, ven acá. Look at his suit and tie. Look, my suit and tie for the wedding. For the wedding, I wear a silk black and white tie. I tie the black and white silk and wear a matching pocket square, a panuelito, a square panuelito to match. He hobbles along, holding on and hobbling, trailing his black and white square, a square of silky black and white, trailing. One by one, everyone leaves. Everyone leaves one by one to see the night-blooming cactus bloom white and full. The acute accent slipped off the third syllable of our family name. We flattened our vowels, verb conjugation, the sway in our hips. We dropped the last of the songs, Benny Moré and José Martí. Las palabras, ghosts in our throats, red threads of saffron turned gold. Alchemy in la olla. Abuelo's recipe for ropa vieja. Smoked paprika, loam, and sepia. What color is the soil in Cuba? ¿Quién se apoderó de nuestra tierra? Abuela said she would never go back. Might as well be Martian. A wedge of lime. Will you squeeze the juice into my tumbler? Rum and sugar cane. Turn this Coke into a Cuba Libre, please. No cigar. Dark hair and ojos verdes. I am a fake Cuban, but I can still roll my R's.
Thank you, Cathy. Our next poet is Jeanne Lutz. She is the author of Until the Kingdom Comes and Perfect Days, co-written with Lee Kisling. In addition to receiving support for her work from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Jerome Foundation, the Oberholzer Foundation, and the Minnesota Center for Book Arts. She is a Pushcart Prize nominee, winner of the Loft Mentor Series for Poetry, and a 2026 recipient of Minnesota Creative Individuals Grants, which she will use to complete her next book. Visit her at jeannelutz.com. Take it away, Jeanne.
Thank you, Ron. So that's the official bio, but like other writers, we also have private bios based on the vast amount of books we have surrounding our ankles and our knees and everywhere in our home. So I thought I would read self-portrait by book titles. Hey world, here I am. Stoneyard Devotional, Seeing Slowly, Ferrell, I and Thou, Bringing It to the Table, Deep Play, Meander Spiral Explode, Summer Snow, Serendipities, The Overstory, 100 Love Sonnets, Spunk and Bite, Another Language of Flowers, Real Sophistication, American Primitive, The Witness of Combines, Dangerous Goods, Western Wind, Sailing Alone Around the Room, Between Lives, Making Hay, The Soul of an Octopus, Mustering What's Left, The Rings of Saturn, The Road Not Taken, 31 Letters and 13 Dreams. Landlubber's Lament. It does not seem pleasant to have to go down with the ship. It is not at all tempting. But going down with the ship is the ancient ethical writ of the captain's profession. Tell me, what will you do when your boat comes sloshing to a stop? Lost postcard from Peru. Hiking the Inca Trail, sore, out of breath, always a new ridge to climb, waterfall to cross, llama to salute, cave to explore. Today we visited a market with plates of cow snouts. Cow snouts! More hiking, more weavers' huts, lunches of glazed guinea pig and nut butter sauces. Machu Picchu remains days away. Our guide's name is Kunturi, which means envoy of ancestral spirits, representative of the gods. Kunturi, pining for a sweetheart he once knew in Cusco, points out butterflies, lizards, luminous but poisonous frogs, plainly gorgeous snakes, spiders biding their time in the center of their own woven worlds. Kunturi carries tools in every pocket. We are trail dazed, coca light, Masato dizzy. We're dirty, we stink. In a small village teetering on a mountain cliff, I buy a wooden whistle carved into the shape of a condor. In the evening, while the stars wheel over us, Kunturi tells us of the old days when the British arrived in the middle of the night and drove his elders out. And then came the British priests like great black beetles, creeping along in twos and threes. It may not be in your history books, he says, but it's true. He sings us to sleep with Quechuan lullabies. This morning, a mile or two into the day, he points out soldier ants on our path, carrying wounded comrades back to their nest after a raid on a termite colony. They have been at it all night long. Pull to set off alarm. May I stay with you in New York? I like being with you in your apartment. I love your teal-colored dishes, the play of day and night on your kitchen floor. I love your parlor with its mid-century furnishings, the spread of your Scandinavian rugs. I love the moon-white mice you keep next to the TV. And I like to open my eyes in the morning to see once more the tranquil gray of the ceiling. I love to see the small whatchamacallit hanging on the wall by your front door that says pull to set off alarm, though it's not an actual alarm, just a realistic sculpture I bought for you in Seattle, made by an artist named Sir Real. May I stay? I won't disturb anything, I promise. I won't overfeed the fish, trim your bonsai, use your toothbrush, drink the last can of LaCroix, boil the coffee, take all the almond butter for my toast, or borrow your bike. Unlike last time, I won't steal your poetry books, sing and play the keyboard until your neighbors roar, throw chocolate chip cookies off the rooftop, crack jokes about your ex, shatter glass by hopping around on your childhood pogo stick, and cross my heart, I won't sneak salt in when you're not looking, or leave bite marks in the cheese. I don't know if that's a poem or just a list of mischief. perfect days. We had a horse, a Percheron horse, striped, not dotted like the usual horses. We called the horse Figaro. He had a passion for eating filth, and nothing would stop him. Then he took to annoying the sheep. We took to hexing our neighbors down the road. They had a Clydesdale horse called Joy. We were convinced that Joy led Figaro into mischief, and then virtuously withdrew to let him take the blame. Figaro had one nice trait. He would stand in the shade and gently smell the large rose bushes when they were in bloom. Figaro never tried to eat them. He just gently smelled the roses and sighed. So my last poem is also a rose poem because I was thinking of Gertrude Stein's famous line, "Rose is a rose, is a rose, is a rose," from her poem, Sacred Emily. So this is kind of a response to that phrase. Fugue for a tuba. You do not need a QR code to connect your nose to the old gardens, or a telescope to connect your eyes to the stars. You do need a love of the quest. There are many sites and guides. When it comes to stealing a rose bush, you must wade in dirt. You do not need to prune your thumb. No need to swallow the whole gazebo. Let your hands become butterflies, each foot a mouse's breath. Gallop into the summer-sprung day. May only the sun box your ears. Here we hear, flourishes flourish. The white-winged dove jets forward on tender buttons, gives us our rapture for today. The great fenceless seam soothes the thorns. Pistachios soothe the tangos, the heart of those horses. You are the strange stable we stampede to when the hail begins. Now is the time to praise and to sing. About this, even magicians cannot lie. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeanne. Love the mischief in your poems. Our final reader tonight is Sarah Hanson. She is a poet with an MA from the University of Chicago. Her work has been featured in HuffPost, the Sahara Nevada Review, Literary Times, among other literary magazines. The Minnesota native lives in Minneapolis with her husband and 3 cats. Her debut collection of poetry is Conjuring the Hurricane, releases April 28, 2026, and is available for pre-order at all booksellers. Find her at www.sarahhansonwrites.com. Take it away, Sarah.
Hi, Ron. Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone. And yes, this collection is available on all book locations, and I'm going to be reading a little bit from it. My father's anger. I grew up in the hallways of my father's anger, his mood a thermostat nobody could regulate. We blistered in the heat of his rages. We shivered in the absences of his affection. We breathed as softly as possible in between. He filled entire rooms with his grievances, displayed trophies of his self-importance on every shelf. We sat on sofas of expectations and hung portraits of our obedience on the walls. One big, happy, barely breathing family. Everybody looking for a way out. My brothers and I grew into adulthood, and my stepmother grew a pancreatic tumor, so my father is alone now. An old man with old ghosts, frequently getting lost in the hallways that used to frighten us. I do not visit very often, and when I do, I hold my breath and hover over the couch cushions, refusing to sink into the crater of his complaint. I do not offer forgiveness, and he doesn't ask. And I do not apologize for the distance between us. Sixth poem is called Cheese Dip. The night of the potluck party, I made a crock pot of his favorite cheese dip. I called his mom for the recipe, made it exactly like she said, proudly had him taste it just before we left the house. Too much cilantro, he spat, spoon thrown to the ground, splattering on my shoes and the hem of my coat. His anger fueled the entire drive, and he was on a full tank, hitting the dashboard, jerking the wheel to scare me, jabbing his lit cigarette in my face while I cradled the offending crock pot warm against my stomach, trying to cry as quietly as possible. He parked with military precision, adjusted his smile into cold salute. He would not betray a single breath of anger to an audience. Jesus, fix your face. You are at a party, for Christ's sake. Try to smile. I was ushered in, my fake smile taken as truth, my cheese dip, the password to answer. Password to enter. He fielded every compliment as though he had made it, telling everyone who would listen it was his mother's famous recipe. Every compliment was a punishment set on a delay timer to detonate on the way home. The drive was filled with the radio of his yelling, and I thought about driving the truck into a bridge just for some fucking peace and quiet. They would find us later, cheese dips splattered on the windshield and over our faces, and nobody would know what to make of it. Hell, I didn't even know what to make of it, and I was one of two people who could explain. Except I had no explanation for how cheese dip could set an entire night into fireworks, how trying to dress in bubbles for a party would lead here, but it always did. We walked in the house and he pointed at the spoon, still on the floor where he had thrown it. Clean it up. I'm going to bed. It was in the dishwasher when he woke up the next morning, and we never spoke of it again. It's called Daddy Issues. We tell a grown woman she has daddy issues instead of telling a grown man he is a father-sized disappointment, as though his mistreatment or abandonment of her is her shame instead of his. Just keep going in this theme. This is called Not Everyone is Made for Honesty. My father used to say he never hit his kids like his dad did, but once he slapped my teenage thigh so hard it left a handprint through the denim. I lied and said it didn't hurt. His dad had only one war story. He escorted a prisoner to enemy camp and returned to find his entire squad murdered in his absence. A man told me he killed 3 people, and I moved into his house the very next Sunday. I have no idea if this story is true, and he's dead now, so I can't ask him. I have no idea if the stories I tell about my own life are true. We are all trying to make meaning and be believed. Not everyone is made for honesty, and sometimes the lie makes more sense than the truth. I should have believed my ex was violent, asked my grandfather for another story. I should have told my dad he hurt me. Right. This is called The Proper Way to Eat an Apology. The proper way to eat an apology, spat out by a man who choked on the words, is with both hands outstretched. Greedily press crumbs to mouth, suck the marrow, try to make meaning from his lint and dust. The proper way to drink derision is one drop at a time, burning the edges of cracked lips, its sea salt a false promise amid the scorched absence of fresh water. I have made bad decisions, but just because I am subsisting on scraps doesn't mean I have forgotten the feel of feast on my tongue. Somewhere there is a house of milk and honey, the soothing sacrament for the lost and hungry. I imagine the buttery taste of safety as I press my fingers dusted with his unseasoned temper to my mouth, desperate to fill myself. This is called They Ask Her Why She Didn't Just Leave. I asked once, how do bees fly with such tiny wings? It doesn't look like it should be possible, but that's only if you think of wings like birds. Bees move their wings diagonally, starting up and back, and then forward and down, while also flipping their wings upside down as they flap, all of which causes the air above the wings to swirl. And it is this swirling vortex that creates the lift for flight. Physicists call this a dynamic stall. It doesn't look like it should be possible. Each counter current is an exit. The stall is your answer. She is working out how to leave the only way that is possible to her. She is conjuring the hurricane. And I'd like to end on one last poem in a different vein, also from the same book, and it is an ode to my very dear friend. It is called Tits to the Sky. We sang the 20 hours straight through to Montana. That Blue Jay four-door packed so full that fourth summer, the trunk sometimes popped open. Our hiking gear and tents and husbands and fear of bears and emergency rations of beef jerky pressed against the car doors. Everything touching, inescapable. One morning, we climbed a mountain to a glacial lake, our sweat sun-baked onto our skin in the July fever. We climbed and climbed and climbed. I shouted for bears. You sang for the stars we couldn't see in the sunshine. Our husbands joined in as we all staked our claim to adventure. At the mountain's edge, you and I stripped down, tits to the sky. All of Montana stretched before us, and we laughed and laughed and laughed. Your husband took our photo from behind, arms linked, breeze on our skin, sisters in the sunshine. Our ninth summer, we packed into your hospital bed, brought lozenges and ginger drops, tea that did nothing for your nausea, skin cream, and knitted hats, prayers to a God I'm not sure either of us believed in. We summited those last cancer treatments, scrambled up a sierra of orange pill bottles. You sang, even as I shouted for a cure that wasn't coming. Our husbands joined in, cried with us, cried and cried and cried. At death's edge, with the help of a haloed hospice nurse and our sisterhood of foxes, we stripped you down for a sponge bath, your body nowhere near Montana's breath. I passed the washcloth over your sweat-slicked skin, and we all sang tunelessly. You beckoned me close and whispered, tits to the sky, as you gestured to your open hospital gown. And even then, it was all made of laughter and a reckless insistence that the edge wasn't that close, the drop wasn't that steep, and couldn't we almost glimpse the heavens in the sunlight, our next adventure just ahead? Isn't the view really something from up here? Thank you. You can pre-order this now if you'd like. I would love it if you to get this into your hands.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thanks to all the readers tonight. And thanks to Valerie Lockhart and the Minneapolis Television Network for putting this on. Thanks to everybody out there enjoying the poetry. Have a wonderful evening.